Bar Frosting writes in, oh no. Hey, we're back from Manager Mailbag, where we answer your questions about management challenges. Let's jump into it. My coworker was interested in me and pursued me at every opportunity, even though I made it clear I wasn't interested and had a girlfriend. She even groped me at a work event and texted me that she was outside my apartment one time. It was annoying. Bar Frosting, that's not annoying. That's sexual harassment. Bring it up with HR. Question 1. Felicia asks, how do you identify effective KPIs so we can get more buy-in and a higher execution rate? Before we jump to the answer, what even is a KPI? I mean, at its core, a KPI is kind of like a metric. The difference with this metric is it should be one that is leading you to that end goal that you want. This is a key one to focus on that will help you eventually achieve your goals. So think about things that are indicative of success in the future. So let's say your goal is to achieve a certain revenue milestone. A KPI might be more like how many deals are in your pipeline or how many trials have you started recently. Those types of metrics help you predict, are you even going to achieve that goal? Okay, so first, instead of thinking about this as how do you identify KPIs, think about this more as how do we identify KPIs. Doing this right means you're involving your team in the brainstorm and the coming up with what's going to be effective for them. You want to bring them into that fold, have that discussion with them, brainstorm what could be good, what could be bad, what could be leading, what could help the whole team raise a red flag and say something's going wrong, we got to focus on that area. Bring them in. If you do that, you're going to get more involvement, more commitment, more buy-in, and obviously you'll get, with all of those things, obviously you'll get a higher execution rate. Okay, with all of that aside, how do you actually make KPIs that are effective? I have 3 tips for you. First, make sure those KPIs are weekly. You want to have the most chances to actually accomplish and review and check on those KPIs as you possibly can. You don't want to have monthly KPIs. That's too long of a period. It gives you 52 chances a year to discover something, learn something, raise a red flag if you need it. Second, I would make sure that they're leading indicators, not lagging indicators. What's the difference between the two of those? Well, a lagging indicator is something like revenue or customer conversations have been closed. It's too late to affect those. If you've achieved your revenue, great. If you haven't, too bad. What are you going to do? Time's up. Instead, you want to think about things that are leading indicators of your goal. So if your goal is revenue, think about what are all the different steps that a dollar has to take along its way before it becomes revenue. That might be trial starts, that might be movements through pipeline, that might be, dollars in a certain stage of pipeline. What are the work in progress steps? And how can you measure those? Third, I would say you want to make sure that all of your KPIs can go up and to the right. And look, what do I mean by that? That's really vague. Typically, if you're going to put a KPI on a chart, the x-axis, the towards the right axis, is going to be time. So as time goes on, what happens to this metric? Does it go up or down? And what I would say is it's easier for everyone to understand that if the chart is going up, that's things getting better, right? Revenue goes up, that's a good thing. Customer counts go up, that's a good thing. Active users go up, that's a good thing. You want to make sure that your KPIs pass what I call the drunk test. So if you're 1 or 2 beers in, you're looking at a dashboard, are you able to immediately identify if something's good or bad? However, not all metrics go up. For example, churn rates is something that we often talk about in SaaS. Churn rates are how many customers are leaving as a percentage. Well, increasing your churn rate is actually terrible. You don't want to increase your churn rate. You want to bring that churn rate down. So that might be a KPI that you're often trying to push down, and every other KPI you're trying to push up. What I would look at instead to keep things simple is retention rates. Retention rate is just the opposite of your churn rate. So if you're churning 10% of customers, you're actually retaining 90% of customers. The more you can push up retention rate, the better. That's a really good KPI, I think, because it just keeps everything in line, keeps those graphs going in the same direction. So that'd be the last one there, is try to come up with KPIs where up and to the right is a good thing. But I don't condone drinking and KPIing at the same time unless things are really bad. No, I'm kidding. Care Bear wrote in that the short list of good candidates in today's market has me second guessing if I'm settling too much. Care Bear, you are settling too much. 100% you are settling too much. If you ever feel like you're settling for a candidate, you are. That's it. Keep looking. Question number 2, our good friend, we go way back, I've never met this person, Nerdy30 asks, interruptions, setting boundaries, and the resulting moodiness. For me, sometimes I need to think deeply to solve a problem. but I'll have one of my team members come in and ask me a question that's like second nature for me. I kind of struggle to hide my annoyance. This is especially true in the mornings when my brain is most active. If I close my door, I appear unapproachable. But if I let people barge in whenever, I only have a split second to mentally prepare or else I come across as rude. One guy even comes around my desk to stand over my shoulder and watch my computer screen when I explain something, which further agitates me. I would change how you're answering that question. And I think this will buy you a little bit of time to get to the answer. So instead of answering, you can say something like, well, here's how I would come up with an answer for that. You're showing your work, you're showing all of the internal calculations you're making in your brain. You're helping them understand what that formula is. By answering a question in that way, you're not giving them a definitive yes or no. What you are giving them is all of the decision criteria that you would use to get to a yes or no, and you're letting them come to that conclusion on their own. The next time they'll probably realize they don't need to even ask you, but they're gonna do it anyway just to confirm it's the same decision criteria. The third time they're just gonna go ahead and do it without you. So that doesn't necessarily help you avoid the interruptions, but what that helps you do is increase pace at your organization. What you need to do is batch those interruptions from your team members into certain time periods in the day. And I think the open door, closed door isn't enough of a signal. What you need to do is create a dependable, predictable moment in their calendar that they can go to and interrupt you like crazy. And if you're able to dependably, reliably give them an incredibly high value moment where they can have everything explained. If you can do that and they can rely on it, you can eradicate almost all interruptions. So having consistent one-on-ones will allow you to batch those interruptions that your team would bring to you into a consistent, predictable place that will allow you to explain everything you need to explain and rid yourself of those interruptions later on in the week. All right, question 3, Philora says, a big challenge is when the team needs babying. Somehow every problem or task is something product needs to resolve or decide. Once a decision is made, they refuse to work on it because, it's a big task. I ask them for options, nothing's given. I was an engineer myself and I have some ideas. I know what is requested could be done. Sure, maybe it's not a job for a single day, but still, as a team full of senior engineers, I expect better. I don't want to tell them how to do their jobs, and I'm a bit clueless on how to resolve this situation. What do you do when your team needs babying? I think that's a very manager moment that you have. I think it's okay to say like, hey team, this is what I'm seeing, and I'm a little bit confused because I know we're all senior engineers here and I don't want to tell you how to do your job, but at the same time, like what you're doing is not the full extent of your job, and as senior engineers, I expected more. I expected more ownership, I expected more autonomy here, I expected, you guys to hold each other accountable. What happened here? The sense that I got here is you've entered into a team that is kind of at the bottom of what I think of as a high performance death spiral. At some point, there's been some, monkey wrench thrown into this problem, and this cascading problem spirals down into this abysmal territory. Someone comes in here and takes away some autonomy. Oh, you guys can't make that decision. We're gonna make that decision. Your team at some point maybe have said something like, okay, cool, this is not our job to do this anymore. We're gonna take over a little bit less ownership. We're gonna care a little bit less about it. That's on you guys. Cool, awesome, you take it. That means there's a little bit of decreased accountability. We're accountable for less things now. We're just gonna overly focus on these other things and make sure we do a good job. Because of that, they feel like they have less autonomy going forward. They're gonna make even less decisions the next iteration, the next pass through the cycle. What you have to do is reverse that death spiral. You have to actually go through probably the same amount of loops that it took to get to that bad place to get back to the normal state. And then you have to do the reverse to get into a really good state. But if you do that, if you're kind of consistently going through that as fast as you possibly can, you can take this team to the highest performing team.